Are you a gig worker or self-employed? Womply has helped over 100,000 small businesses get a PPP stimulus loan, and you may qualify for up to $41,000 in 100% forgivable loans. The program ends soon and funds are limited. Apply now at womply.com/apply. That's WOMPLY.com/apply.
10, 9, 8. Ignition sequence has started. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
You have entered Untold Radio AM. And now broadcasting from a secret location, your hosts, Joel Sturgis and Doug Hajicek.
And welcome to this edition of Untold Radio AM. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me is Mr. Doug Hajicek. And I got a great show on tap. We're having Paul Eno on the show, one of the original Ghostbusters, but tonight he's coming to us to talk cryptids. Creepy cryptids, Mothman, Bigfoot, and ones you've never heard of. Oh my! That is the bottom of the hour. Go on, hang around for that. Doug, how the hell was your Christmas?
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to ask that. It was.
Well, I had to ask.
It was good. It was a COVID Christmas. Just my children.
A COVID Christmas.
Yes, just my children. And it was peaceful. They ate all the food. All of it. It was like, oh my God, I kept telling Yvette, don't make a ton of food because it's like 4 people coming over. Maybe 5 with Blaine's girlfriend. So she made all this food. She's like, well, I'll do what I want. I'm going to make all this food. So she did, but it all got eaten.
Well, mine was what? Mine was good. It was the same thing. COVID Christmas.
I didn't ask you yet.
I know you didn't ask me.
I
just figured I'd volunteer it.
Okay, I heard through the grapevine that you had a very interesting scene with one of your children with a big, huge, giant package you had made.
I did. It was hilarious. I mean, you know, granted, whenever a child throws a fit, it's never comedy. But this moment it was. And I don't know who you heard this from. You must have watched our video, A Few Strange Minutes, earlier today.
Nope.
And, our youngest son, he's 4, giant box under the tree, looking at it for, forever, because the wife put him, about 2 weeks before Christmas, kind of put all the gifts under the tree, so like a shake.
You tortured him.
We didn't mean to torture him. It wasn't set out to be a torture device, but it became one.
How old is your son again?
He is 4 years old.
Okay, if you're 4... and your parents bring out this giant box.
I know where you're going with this, and I understand that.
He had this. His imagination was going crazy. He's thinking ponies. He's thinking electric riding vehicles, and big RC cars. Okay, what happened?
He opens it up, and he's excited at this point, getting himself into unwrapping frenzy.
Yeah, frenzy.
Opens up the box, and it's a blanket. And he turns around and he's screaming and yelling at us, and we're explaining to him, hey, you got lots of toys coming. This is a blanket that you're gonna love because it's for your bed, and trying to make it really, really good for him. Yeah. And he grabs the blanket, shakes it throws it down, and says, "This is a horrible gift," and then goes and cries on the couch just for a second until the next gift was in front of him, and we. Just full disclosure, we rectified ourselves with the next gift. It was a nice big RC car. Yeah. So the tears were not there for very long.
That's a funny.
So it wasn't like it was bad.
That's a funny story.
It was. I got the video, and I'll show it to you, Doug.
Oh my God! I hope you learned a lesson, though.
I did learn a lesson. Yeah, do not put the in the big boxes, make sure it's toys and not blankets.
Yep.
Or socks or underwear or anything like that. If you're going to put a big gift out there, you better deliver. That's what I learned.
Yep, better be that riding toy.
It better be the big one.
Okay.
Big one.
So I had a close call tonight. So we had a power outage right before we went on the air. And I'm sweating bullets. But then it comes on. I high-five my daughter and right back out again. The moment we high-fived, the moment our hands, we looked at each other like, did we do that?
Do you ever think to yourself that you jinx yourself?
I don't know.
Did you ever say, I really shouldn't have done that?
I shouldn't have high-fived her.
It was instant karma. Yep. Like you celebrated too hard. Now guess what, guys? I'm out again.
Well, the worst of it is your house starts getting cold.
That is the worst.
And you're thinking, well, what if this just continues all night?
Next thing you know, you're going to be in the middle of your studio with a little fire going. You'll be rubbing your hands together.
Gas stove, but you got to start it with electricity.
That is true. You're kind of SOL then.
Makes sense, doesn't it? Well, I could have MacGyvered it. I could have taken it apart and, lit it and taken a match to it or whatever.
You could have. There would have been ways to heat your home.
Okay, but see, that's where it gets weird. So the power comes on, and then, of course, I forget that my computer's not on. So I'm looking at the clock, and I'm going, oh, my God, now I got to fire my computer up. And then I know I haven't rebooted it for a month. So it's going to pop-ups. All these updates. It's an Apple computer. Apple, Adobe, popping up. Update this, update Zoom, blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm closing all these pop-ups. And I'm closing.
You're like a madman closing all these pop-ups, screaming.
Then I get the ultimate pop-up. And this is what I want to share with our audience. It was from Google. And it basically said, do you want Google to control everything on your computer?
Oh, my God.
And I'm thinking, no.
Oh, hell no.
And there's these, how you freak out and there's these two, choices like to go or no go. And you're scratching your head going, which one should I push?
Red wire, blue wire. You just don't know which one to clip.
If I push the one no, will Google get out to get me? And
they might.
Yeah.
They're going to send their people out now.
I could be screwed. You don't know. You sit there and you look at it like a blind mule.
It's a Google world, my friend, and we just live in it.
Yeah. So anyhow, tomorrow I'm going to buy Google stock because if they're sending that message to every single person, Google's. Yeah. I mean, they're taking over everything.
Talk about forcing their way into your lives, all of our lives.
But the message, I swear to God, it said, "Do you want Google to take over everything?" I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, the machines are taking over.
Yep, that gets
Next thing you know, you're going to have an Austrian man at your door with a shotgun. I told you I'm Bach. And, that whole thing. You just never know. It's crazy, the machines. Yeah. That's what my fears is AI, man. AI is coming to get us.
Well, it won't be AI. It'll be Google. They won't tell you it's AI. They're not going to tell you it's AI. There's just going to be a takeover.
That's all it's going to be. Just a mass takeover.
You won't even know who's doing it.
No.
But you'll know Google's behind it somehow.
They're always behind it. You know that. It's a grand conspiracy of Google.
But when Google wants to take over an Apple computer, because remember the old days.
I do.
It was Apple. Apple was Apple.
Apple was Apple, and Apple couldn't run anything but Apple products. I remember that.
Google and all that, whatever, they steered clear.
Yep. Now they're all in it together.
Yeah.
They're all in it, man. They're all in it. And now they're probably spying on you.
Yeah. And
you hitting no made the satellite.
Have you ever noticed, Joe, if you're watching YouTube and then the person what you're watching?
Yes.
And the commercial just keeps going.
Yes.
It just keeps going. It's like a half hour, 2 hour.
It just keeps going and never ends.
Confused.
It's very confusing.
Just confused.
Horribly confusing. You know what? I still don't understand.
I was watching a documentary on wool.
Okay. Wool. Like wool. We were watching a documentary on what?
Can you hear me, Joel?
You're breaking up quite severely.
Wolves.
There we go. Wolves.
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm
Wolves.
serious.
Oh.
Yes, there we go. I thought you said wool. I thought maybe like sweaters. I mean,
wolves, I was watching Wolves of Chernobyl.
Wow, those are some mutant wolves.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. The commercial came on. I started watching the commercial.
Have you ever noticed, though, Doug, that you could be talking to somebody, real world conversation, not over the phone or anything, just you two, and you bring up a product or you talk about buying something, you go on Facebook or Google and up pops an advertisement for the exact thing you're talking about?
Oh, my goodness.
That happens.
You just talk about it. You just sit in front of your TV and start talking about,
because your phone is always listening.
Yeah, we should think about buying a new Bronco. All of a sudden, everything, Bronco.
Telling you, your phone is always listening.
Yep.
And it knows. Because it's happened to me several times. It's happened to everybody I know several times.
I'm going to come to your house, and I'm going to start yelling the word hemorrhoid.
Oh, God. Help me. See, folks, this is what I deal with.
I'm sorry.
See? This is what I deal with.
Yeah. Anyhow.
So it sounds like we have a lot of fun in store for everybody from the show. It sounds like you have some trivia you'd like to lay on me.
Well, yeah, I kind of was thinking on it.
Okay.
Are you
ready for that bit?
What are the rules? One.
I don't know. You're the master. You're the game master.
I want to see your hands. No, you got to hold them there the whole time we play.
I will do my best.
You'll cheat. I know you will.
Me cheat? Never.
Oh my God, look at the smile on your face right now. You will cheat.
It's like my grandfather told me when I was young. Win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat.
Okay. So what I'm going to do with each question, I'm going to tempt you with a prize.
Oh, a prize. Okay.
Yeah, like steak dinner anywhere you want.
All right.
If you get it right.
If I get it right.
Even if you come close.
Hand grenade close and still win it.
That's a good way to put it. Hand grenade close, yeah. Horseshoe close.
Okay. And what happens to me if I'm wrong? That's what I'm more concerned about, is being wrong.
Well, I'll tell you that after we're done.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, okay, all right.
That's why they call it garbage trivia. You make the rules up as you go.
Just as you go, yeah.
Did you ever do that when you were a kid?
I did. I change them all the time.
Oh, yeah, you just change them. Whatever. You're playing a board game. Something happens. You think, hey, here's a good opportunity to make a new rule.
Right here, right now, as long as it advantages me.
Yes, correct. Yes. These are life skills that we learn, and it's how we've survived as we got older.
True.
By cheating at board games.
It sets you up for more cheating later.
Yeah.
Like on your taxes or on other things. I mean, really it sets the stage of underhanded, living your life in an underhanded way.
Yeah, have you ever met a kid, he's like maybe 4, and he just has these little ways about him, and you go, that kid will do well.
I have met a couple. And then, fast forward 20 years, and they're moving to Florida with a pretty rich wife, and they're retired. Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Or an ugly wife, or whatever.
Or an ugly, hey, love is blind.
Yeah. What did you say when you say ugly to the bone?
Yep, yeah. Beauty skin deep, but ugly is right to the bone.
Yeah, beauty is only skin deep. Ugly is right to the bone.
Yep, it cuts to the bone. That's right.
Okay, all right, Joel. For your first question.
Okay.
First one.
Here we go.
If you even come close.
All right, Doug. All right, I got it.
Dinner, Anywhere you want, as long as it's in Gilbert.
Oh, right now with restrictions, it's very limited. Probably to my house.
Well, then there you go. I don't have to pay anything. Okay. So anyhow, how much does a stork nest weigh?
Introducing touch-free payments from PayPal, a safe way for your customers to pay. Simply download the PayPal app and display your own unique QR code for your customers to scan. Whether you're a market seller,
I'll take 2 tomatoes and a cucumber,
poodle pamperer, piano tuner, or plumber. Signing up to accept touch-free payments for your business is easy. Touch-free QR code payments. Shop safe with PayPal.
Are you a gig worker or self-employed? Womply has helped over 100,000 small businesses get a PPP loan. You may qualify for up to $41,000 in 100% forgivable loans. The program ends soon and funds are limited. Apply now at womply.com/apply. That's WOMPLY.com/apply.
I want to see both hands.
A stork nest?
Yeah, how much does this?
Yep, and that's a big bird, the stork.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go 26 pounds.
Not even hand grenade close.
Not even hand grenade close?
No. Are you ready for the answer?
I'm ready.
1 ton.
No way.
1 ton. Yes.
1 ton?
1 ton. Well, obviously, I'm not going to go weigh the damn thing.
So they got 1 ton nests all over the place. These giant nests with storks.
Yeah.
These things must be mammothly huge.
That's a big nest, yeah.
Because, I mean, it's just twigs and crap, right? Yeah, I mean, it's nothing. It's mud and twigs.
Well, the crap, who knows what the crap is?
Well, you know.
Twigs, yeah. Twigs.
Wow, was I off?
That's, yeah, whatever. So you said 20, where did you come up with 26 pounds?
Well, you know, because I thought to myself, how heavy can grass be? You know, especially when they're going to form it into that cup-looking thing and,
Joel,
you know, have sex in it. And
my mouth got dry waiting for your answer. So I knew you would be so close. You missed it.
Well,
you missed it by, oh my God, 1,970.
Can I have a redo? Can I have a redo on the question?
Okay. And since I watched a Chernobyl documentary, how many wolves exist right now in Chernobyl in that area, which is huge? How many wolves? You got to be within 2 wolves.
Oh, within 2 wolves?
Yeah.
So I would probably say, okay, if our state is that big and we have 1,000 landmass, no one's around there, and Chernobyl is a big area, I would go about, let's go 1,200 wolves.
1,200 wolves. Wrong. Yeah. Not even hand grenade close.
Not even close, huh?
Not even close.
How many wolves?
120. 2?
That's it. Wait a minute. You led in there with it's a big area. You never know.
See, I beat you. I know how to steer you, Joe.
So there's only 100 plus wolves.
No,
that's it. Okay. Why? Why is there so little? Because of what? The nukes or the
think about it.
Radiation?
Okay, it's radioactive.
Radioactive wolves. That sounds like a horror flick.
Yeah, I would imagine that their prey is somewhat still radioactive. You know the mice.
Yeah. This fall from Whitewolf Productions.
Cool? Okay. How big? Okay, I'll just ask one more dumb garbage.
Okay, one more.
How big do the catfish get in length in Chernobyl? In the waters around Chernobyl? And you got to be within, let's see, hold on, I got to make up a rule. And don't see your hands. Oh my God, you're cheating. There we go. Okay. Within, let's say, 2 inches.
Within 2 inches? Oh my God.
Yeah, but the prize is really good. I will give you $100.
Boy. Let's do 112 inches.
120 freaking. Okay, 96 inches is 8 foot. And you said,
yeah, because you said they're mutants because they're in Chernobyl.
Yeah.
So I would imagine they grow very large there because they're mutants.
Anyhow, they get up to 96 inches.
Look at that. I know. But see, 2 inches is not hand grenade close.
But what was cool is it kind of went 8 foot. I'm telling people I saw a 6-foot trout.
Did you see a 6-foot trout?
Gosh, yes. Like, heck yeah. Oh, yeah, bigger, probably maybe even bigger. But people think I'm crazy. But here they're showing these 8-foot catfish.
But catfish are known to get large.
But not 8 feet, sir.
Well, look at their cousin, the sturgeon. Look how big that gets.
That's not a cousin.
Sure it is. It's a fish, ain't it? They're both bottom feeders. Oh my God. They both grew up in the same neighborhood. I mean,
Cousin Joe. Oh, okay. One's a bony platy fish. One doesn't have any bones.
Well, then there's that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I'm going to up the ante.
Oh, no.
I want to see both hands. I got to see them because I'm not doing this unless you're... Because, man, we got Google going right there. Oh, my God. His wife is probably there.
No. I'm alone in the studio, and
All right.
yeah.
All right. So you ready? Yeah, that's why I did not tell you I was going to play trivia.
Gotcha.
You had everything all set up. Okay. Within 500. That's a pretty good hand grenade distance. How many black bears do we have in Minnesota right now?
Oh.
I didn't tell you the prize.
Okay, what's the prize?
Lunch at McDonald's.
Well, that's better than nothing. Oh, let's see. We just had Dr. Lynn Rogers on recently, and he gave us that number.
Yeah.
What was we had in Minnesota? I know it's right around, what was it, like 6,000, 7,000? I can't remember. I know it wasn't 40,000. I know that.
No, it's 12.
12,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Used to be, I think it was up to 40 at one time, almost 40,000 at one time, like 38,000.
Yeah, I knew I was getting the number from somewhere from talking to him, but you talked about currently.
Yep.
So the number would be about 12,000.
And since you didn't get any of them right,
okay.
So what do I get?
Looking around my desk, I have nothing of value.
How about your tiger blanket? Your Tiger King blanket?
Oh, I can't give up the Tiger King blanket. No way. That's insane. Do you really want that? What would you do with that blanket if I sent it over? Oh, you just want to flip it over?
Yeah.
You really want that flipped over, don't you? Well, you're going to be surprised what's on the other side.
Next week.
Yeah, you're going to be surprised what's on the other side.
It surprised me.
Yeah, because, it's another tiger. That's a surprise.
Just so you know, Joel rearranged his studio and just weird.
There's some. I spruced it up a little bit.
God,
is what I did. I have to broadcast all this thing. How many days a week?
It's a regular Rogan studio.
It's a wonderful little studio.
Yeah, it is.
It works.
It works.
I don't have the Joe Rogan money, but at least I can have the swag.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Oh, so let's touch on what you're doing with e-bikes, man. Because off air we were talking a little bit about that, and I think it's really cool what you're inventing and what you're making. So
not really inventing anything. I'm just
Okay,
so I'm working on I'm going to build 3 bikes. These 3 bikes are going to have a camera system that, so you turn it on, basically like a dash cam system, but with, decent quality infrared cameras, front and rear. You turn it on and it'll just power up everything. 1,650 watts. So it'll be powerful.
Yeah.
Like well over 200 Newton meters of torque. All jet matte black, completely matte black. Incredible lighting system front and rear. A clutch tub, so there's no pedal resistance. So if you run out of battery, but I'm putting these huge batteries, 20 amp, 52 volt, 20 amp batteries. In fact, I talked to a guy today. I sold one. It didn't have cameras, but I sold one to a guy that was used, and he bought it from me. And he called me today. And I know he's really hard on his bikes. He said, "Oh yeah, I've been using this thing he uses it all winter, all summer." He said, "I've only charged the battery 5 times."
Wow, that's a hell of a long life in that battery.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I knew they were good, but not that. He was.
Think of beans that they're silent. That would work great for the people out in the field.
Well, yeah, that was my idea. So I did this thing. I'm doing custom graphics on them. They're going to be, of course, Sasquatch, electric research bikes. What do you think?
Man,
isn't that?
I think that's going to be wonderful.
It's unoriginal.
I think they'd be cool as hell because now you can have the speed of, let's just say, almost like an ATV.
Yes.
Without the noise.
Yes, no noise, zero. Yep.
So you can sneak up on things potentially. You can not disturb the environment.
Right.
With, noise pollute.
Yep. So most people see cryptids when they're in their car, coming around a corner, coasting down a hill. They're always 90% of them are from cars. In fact, Newsweek magazine called me up one time, the reporter. They were doing a whole issue on Bigfoot. Newsweek. I went,
wow.
It was one of those special edition Newsweek.
Yeah.
All Bigfoot. So he calls me up and he goes, "Well, how is this mystery going to end?" And I said, "Tesla."
True.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those big Tesla semi-trucks.
Yep.
Coming around.
And it's going to plaster Bigfoot all over the highway, is what you're saying?
Yep. That's what's allowed. Yep. But since there'll be no driver probably in it, they won't know.
They'll never know what they hit.
And they'll be in pieces laying, in the ditch or whatever, and that'll be the end of it. Yep.
Wow. That I feel bad for the Sasquatch now.
But
here's
the thing, Joel. For anybody that has never got an e-bike, oh my God, I don't care what age you are, you feel like you're a 10-year-old boy or a 10-year-old girl again. Because you can go anywhere you want. It's silent. You can ride on the sidewalks. You can ride on the roads. There's no tabs. There's no insurance needed. There's no carburetors to gum up. You just flick the switch and you just go.
And you go. And now the pedaling, you don't have to pedal all the time if you don't want to, right?
No, like the things that I build certainly have throttles and pedal assist. So you can squeeze the throttle, with a thumb throttle or a twist throttle, and you have basically like an Olympic athlete helping you pedal. Yeah. Yeah. But you have 5 to 9 levels, so you can pick how much help you want.
Gotcha. And you can really tour long distances then.
Yes. Yeah. So
with one of those.
Yeah. So if it's 90 degrees, you can still go riding and you won't get hot.
Still a good workout.
Oh God, yeah.
Should you choose to have the workout?
We go on 50-mile rides.
Yeah. Yeah. I knew a guy that used to build bikes back when it was hot to put 2-stroke motors on them. Do you remember that when they were first coming out? You could put the 2-stroke motors on those bikes.
Oh God, I've done that many times.
But these things would just fly. He would put oversized 2-stroke motors on it.
Yep, you can bore.
Like I'm talking like 100 cc.
Yep.
150 cc, and it was like riding a dirt bike.
Actually, they're only 49 cc, but they bore them out up to almost 100. Yeah, you're right. But they're small engines.
But I could see where the electric would be better because the weight. You don't have to carry gas. That's the biggest thing is you don't have to carry gas with it. Because gas is messy and it's got, emissions and everything else goes. But with electric, they've come so far batteries now that you can really put the miles on. You know, I know you don't sell these things. I mean, you don't like have a dealership.
No, I don't sell them. It's my hobby.
It's been a passion of yours for years. What got you into that passion, Doug? You never did tell me what got you into that.
Probably when I was a kid, I saved up. I didn't have a bike, and I saved up my own money. And I went to Sears. I saved up $79, and that was a lot of money back in the early 60s.
Yeah.
And went there, and I saw this gold Stingray with the banana seat, you know, the metal flake, and
called your name, man.
And it was like in the middle of January when I bought it. So I remember bringing it downstairs and staring at it all winter. And so obviously I loved bikes. And then I bought a mini bike, you know, one of these gas-powered bikes.
Yep.
I built a ski for it. But it was the freedom that the bikes and the mini bikes, because I like the back roads. I like along the creek, you know.
Sure.
And then when I discovered electric.
Streaming only on Peacock.
John Wayne Gacy is suspected of having killed as many as 32.
Straight from the killer's mouth.
They want you to believe that I alone committed these murders.
The new gripping 6-part documentary series that investigates the crimes that shocked the nation.
The thing everybody thought they knew wasn't the whole story.
John Wayne Gacy, Devil in Disguise. All episodes streaming now. Devil in Disguise. Only on Peacock. Streaming only on Peacock.
John Wayne Gacy killed 32.
Straight from the killer's mouth.
They want you to believe that I alone committed these murders.
The new gripping 6-part documentary series, John Wayne Gacy, Devil in Disguise. All episodes streaming now, only on Peacock.
Fat bikes. I'm thinking, ooh, this is like the best of all worlds.
Exactly. No, the electric bikes are... you know, something that you can jump on, you can tour, and I think that people should really look more into them. Anyone that hasn't tried one, should give it a try. It's great low impact. If you need a low impact exercise, that's the ticket as well, because you can get that assist. You can still get out there and have fun. We're gonna run the break. We got Paul Eno next, paranormal investigator, one of the originals. I call him one of the OG investigators. We'll be right back right after this.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If you can hear me, then you have an internet connection, which means you can do cool things online, like listen to streaming radio, obviously, or watch a video of a monkey washing a cat. Let your freak flag fly. Or you can book a room at a great price at Motel6.com. Isn't the internet wonderful? Everything you want right at your fingertips, and whoa, did not need to see that. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Unexpected reactions to smart financial decisions brought to you by feedthepig.org.
Well, I finally did it. My student loan is totally paid off.
I can't believe it.
I can't believe it either. I paid more than the minimum each month, and soon enough, it was gone.
So you're just giving up?
Giving up on what?
The life of luxury. Egyptian cotton, caviar Thursdays, designer everything.
What are you talking about?
Our plan. What happened to winning the lottery and mastering the art of the perfect mimosa? Hosting galas, wearing enough jewelry to require a bodyguard, vacationing in the French Riviera, and then buying it.
I just thought maybe it was time to prepare for my future. You know, set some financial goals, make some smart investments, open a 401k.
Financial goals? Investments? A 401k? You are horrifying right now. Listen, if winning the lottery were easy, everyone would do it.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
So me and the boys head out to tailgate today and find some other fans in our spot.
Well, it happens.
Cheering for the wrong team.
Oh, this is war.
Even worse, they've got this couch set up and everything.
A couch?
Yeah, it's sectional.
All right, first thing, don't ever use the word sectional again.
Done.
Second, I want you to grab a 4,700-pound tow chain with J-hook and grab hammer, throw that on the back of your truck.
Got it.
Now you're going to Hail Mary the J-hook over the end of that couch. Time to find a better spot for your new friends.
That should do it.
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
Taking a family of 5 to the amusement park can cost a small fortune.
Oh, yeah. So to save some money, we thought, hey, let's bring the amusement park to us. Yeah. Go ahead.
All right, step right up, young man. Are you ready to ride the Wacky Waterfall?
That's just the bathtub with the shower head running.
Nope, it's the Wacky Waterfall.
It's the shower, Dad.
Waterfall.
Wacky.
There's an easier way to save. To get a free rate quote, go to geico.com. Then buy online, over the phone, or at your local Geico office.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on 2 things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
And welcome back to Untold Radio AM. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me is Mr. Doug Hajicek. Tonight we have a special guest tonight. Near and dear to my heart, I love the paranormal. Doug, I know you do too, especially cryptids and the unknown and the high strangeness in our universe that we cannot figure out. We have one of the best out there in his bio, and I cannot believe this has been 50 years already in the paranormal. Paul Eno, world's most experienced and sometimes controversial paranormal adventurer. He's here tonight to talk with us about his adventures in the paranormal, dealing with cryptids, dealing with the unknown, even a little bit of Mothman be thrown in just for good measure. I'd like to welcome Paul Eno to the show.
Well, thank you, Joel and Doug. Great to be with you.
Hey,
yeah,
Paul.
It's been a heck of a career, Paul. Heck of a career. Is it 50 years already? Where does the time go, I bet you ask yourself?
Time flies when you're having fun, you know. It was particularly fun when I was studying for the priesthood and they threw me out because they didn't like me doing this. So maybe the church and I both had a lucky escape.
They took exception with you looking at the paranormal. They're like, "Get out of here, Paul!" What did you do yourself after that, though? I mean, after that direction, your life, that part of your life ended. What did you move into after that?
Well, it was rather an epic saga because I had entered the seminary at the age of 14 when you could still do that. So I had been in for a long time. And in the course of that, and I started really a few years later working in the paranormal as a sort of a ghost researcher back when people really didn't do that as commonly as they do today. Now you can throw a pebble on the street in any city and you're going to hit 10 people who are quote unquote ghost hunters, right? So I graduated from the junior college level seminary, went into the college level seminary where I found a faculty that was surprisingly supportive of this, probably because I was working with Ed and Lorraine Warren, who, controversial as they were, happened to be liked by the exorcist for the Diocese of Ogdensburg, New York, where I was in the seminary. And I ended up working with him at the St. Lawrence State Hospital on some pretty sketchy kind of paranormal cases. And then finally, at the end of my senior year, I decided to join the Orthodox Church because I thought it was more authentic to the original Christianity. And that's, debatable, maybe not. But they let me graduate, which I thought was very big of them. Then I went to the Orthodox seminary, and that's where I met my nemesis. You're a new convert, keep your nose in your books. They didn't like the Warrens, and that was pretty much the end of that. I got in 2 years, and one of the odd points of that experience was the Orthodox priests, parish priests, are usually married. And that was an entirely new, that wasn't even on my radar. That was an entirely new concept for me. So that, I eventually got married, but I never became a priest. So that's essentially what happened there. And I ended up, the only other thing I could do after all those years in the seminary was write. I'd written for a few religious newspapers and stuff. So I kind of shoehorned my way into journalism in Rhode Island. I was from Connecticut, and in Rhode Island there was a newspaper called the Patuxent Valley Daily Times. And after they hired me, I found out that the editorial association in New England considered it the worst daily newspaper in the region.
Oh boy!
And the editor was like, a combination of Perry White and Frankenstein's monster. And he'd scream regularly in the newsroom. That was my baptism by fire. But in 8 months at that paper, I not only continued sort of paranormal work sort of on the side and writing, but also developed history writing and the news, of course, including, they figured I'd been in the seminary, so I could cover Pope John Paul II's trip to Boston in 1979, which I did. I actually had Vatican press credentials. It was pretty cool. And then I was shot at a super fun, waste site. So I jumped on a fire truck and got into a chemical fire when the guy from the Providence Journal paper where I ended up eventually was standing there in his tie and his trench coat, and I almost got arrested. But we scooped the big Metro paper that day with all these photos. So it was a lot of fun, and I loved it, and I've been in journalism ever since.
Wow.
The paranormal is part of my work.
My gosh, just that's a whole show right there. Those adventures in journalism. That's amazing.
Yeah,
that is amazing.
Well, I wasn't arrested or shot, so that was a good day.
So you're in. So I don't know you that well. I mean, I've just met you, Paul. I haven't even had a chance to talk to you. I'm jealous because Joel got to talk to you for half an hour.
Everybody loves me, man. What can I say? I'm just that way.
I love you, Joel. I love you already.
Thank you, Paul, man. Right back at you, brother.
There's not many guys like you, Paul, you investigate UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, Bigfoot. I mean, you kind of do it all. Do you ever feel guilty, like when you switch topics?
Oh, not at all. It happened in a natural way. The very first, I'll tell you, fellas, and this is not easy to discuss as you do, but I have written about it in my last book, but at the age of 7, I was witness to my father's suicide.
Oh, my gosh.
Exactly. And that got me into wondering, where is my father? I was in a strict Roman Catholic school at the time. My brother was already a priest. And the Sisters of Alleged Mercy would tell you, well, if you eat a hot dog on Friday or commit suicide, you go straight to hell. My father was a wonderful man, home because of his heart. And my mother had to go out and work in a time, the late 1950s, early 60s. That didn't happen. You had nuclear family, and the dad worked, and that was about it. Yeah. So as time went by, I hit the age of 17, and I was still running, where is my father? In the seminary, they were, it was math and English, usual basic subjects. They weren't talking theology yet or philosophy. So I decided to investigate a abandoned village that I'd seen in the newspaper in 1970, Hartford Courant. And I got in touch with the old fellow out there, the old historian, who'd gotten some very strange photos of streaks moving through the trees. I'd seen a lot of odd things there, heard sounds. And push came to shove, and 1970 really started my first field case. And we did a lot of research, and we being fellow seminary students, and we kept this kind of hush-hush. We went out there, and we started to experience things that I never even imagined. My working theory was that these earthbound spirits, as they're known, throughout history and every culture, were really souls in purgatory. Good Catholic seminarian kind of approach, right? Mm-hmm. Well, what we experienced out there at what was known locally as the Lost Village, Pomfret, Connecticut, these people didn't seem to be dead at all, never mind in purgatory. So we were going through that, and then by the end of the 1970s, the old theories just did not work. Spirits of the dead, all that 19th century stuff, it just wasn't good enough. So by the end of the 70s, I can't remember quite the experience that made me push the envelope, but it was go on outside and check out the yard. Talk to the neighbors if you can. And when I started doing that in the late 70s, I was finding almost inevitably that you have a quote-unquote haunted house, and the neighbors themselves were also having issues. They were seeing UFOs. I started to run in by the middle of the 1980s. I was running into cryptids. People were seeing those, and I started to develop the notion of what we call today the flap area. John Keel called them window areas of paranormal events that are not normally associated with one another, but nevertheless we feel are related because of the processes involved and a lot of the strange stuff that goes on. So by 2005, Ben, my son, at the age of 13, had joined me after long discussions with his mother, and he was a natural. Our first case, he had two early cases in August that year, the haunted policeman of Vermont, and what was to become the Litchfield, Connecticut flap area, okay, the triangle, which we're still working on 15 years later, and it's getting big. It's up to about 330 square miles at this point.
Whoa.
And has gotten over into the Hudson Valley of New York. And so I don't feel guilty at all as far. I mean, it's part of the normal course. I mean, because of expanding the envelope, I've met Bigfoot myself, possibly on 2 occasions, once for sure. I've had a UFO sighting that Mark D'Antonio of MUFON has called one of the 2 best he's ever seen, because we got the whole thing on video. And that was in Pennsylvania toward into 2019. So it's been quite the ride, and it's far from over.
What do you attribute your... Oh, go ahead, Doug. I'm sorry about that.
Ask when you have your own experiences, how does that change your research? Because I've met a ton of researchers that have never seen a UFO, never seen a cryptid, never seen anything, but yet they're still pretty dedicated researchers. But yet, then there's the other people like me that, crap, I've just either been really lucky, it sounds like you have. And so doesn't that affect you? Does it make you a better researcher, Paul? Or does it make you a worse researcher because you take stuff for granted? Or what's your take on that?
Well, Doug, I have to say, I don't know. I hope that it makes one more honest, but as a journalist...
Are you a gig worker or self-employed? Womply has helped over 100,000 small businesses get a PPP loan. You may qualify for up to $41,000 in 100% forgivable loans. The program ends soon and funds are limited. Apply now at womply.com/apply. That's womply.com/apply.
One of the principles is you don't want to become part of the story. Yeah. And I try to approach this as a journalist with even a bit as a detective. I was in the Coast Guard too, on top of all this other stuff. So you have a sort of a law enforcement approach and a journalistic approach, but still these things happen to you. It does change things. After lectures, the most shaken up people I've seen sometimes are people who come up after they hear you and say, I'm a doctor, or I'm an attorney, or some other profession which is steeped in predictable belief systems, and they'll say, this happened to me and I'll never be the same again. I find, even for myself, that it's not so much the phenomena that occur, that can shake you up too, but it's the shattering of your belief systems when something happens that just does not match what you've been taught to believe. One of the moments for that, for me, probably one of the most dramatic was in 1974, working with Ed and Lorraine Warren on that Lindley Street, Bridgeport, Connecticut poltergeist case. Probably it's been called one of the best documented cases in history because all kinds of police officers, firefighters, journalists, people of this kind were all in that house. And me too. In fact, I think at this point, other than some retired police officers in their 80s, I'm the last major witness who's still alive to that case. But I stood there. It was Monday, November 25th, 1974, with the little girl Marcy, who seemed to be the object of the attention of the entities, and her family. And 4 of these things came out of the kitchen. You could almost see these gauzy structures. And I from the moment I stepped foot in the house, I had the feeling that there were 4 entities involved. We thought they were demons, hence the involvement of Father Charbonneau, the priest. And we were waiting for the Bishop of Bridgeport to give permission for an exorcism, which never came. But I was in the house by myself with the family. The Warrens were off doing some TV show. And one of these things came right up to me. I knew it was after the little girl, and this is where I learned you don't become angry, annoyed, or fearful in the face of these things because they are not demons, parasites. It took a while to formulate that, probably a couple of more years. And they feed on things like this. The thing got stronger and stronger. I was angry. It was after the little girl. I pushed against it just instinctively, and it pushed back. It had a body. These things are supposed to be spirits, which utterly shattered my belief system. And spirits, by definition, are, without bodies, discarnate. This thing was by no means discarnate.
Paul, this thing actually had a bone structure to it, is what you're saying. It actually had mass. It was physical.
Yeah, it did. And I'm not an anatomist, but I mean, it felt to me almost bird-like. So that when I lecture on this, I have a diagram and I have almost these bird-like things coming down. And it was only one that I had the entanglement with, quantum entanglement, maybe. And it just, but it shattered me to the point I couldn't move. I couldn't think. It got around me, threw Marcy across the room. And at that point, the place felt like it was going to explode. I just pulled everybody out of the house onto the street, which fortunately the police had blocked off the street. So the tremendous crowd, several thousand people at a time, we didn't walk out into that, thank heaven. But it was just, it shattered my belief system. And so I had to come up with something new. But by 1979, I was encountering people who were seeing ghosts of themselves, people who were seeing ghosts of buildings, as it were, of buildings, time slips, things of this. And I said, again, the old ideas about dead people just didn't do it.
So is it possible that the purpose of all this is to suck energy out of us, to live, these creatures, these entities, basically all the weird stuff that we see and scare us? What is the purpose?
Well, I think that when they are involved, I think that there's an awful lot more to creation, to reality with a capital R, to the multiverse, if you will, than parasites. I think there are. I've run into all sorts of beings, seemingly, unless I'm nuts, who are neutral, or who are quote unquote ghosts, who are afraid of us because they think we're ghosts haunting them, because they see us the same way we see them, across what a physicist might call the brain, BRANE, or membrane, which is what? Plasma charge. It kind of holds things together. And they see us as glowing or stick-like figures or something we would consider a ghost, and we have to deal with that. Only in some cases are there parasitical entities, in our opinion. One of the stickiest situations can be when you go into a house or an area where people are aware of being bothered by something, and they just have a bad feeling, and you could just feel that it's parasitical, but they think it's it's Uncle John, who died 10 years before, and it must be him. And they have it all figured out, and they're wrong. And I will go in and say sometimes, well, I don't believe you're Uncle John, and everything changes. So I think that they, you ring the dinner bell by, there are a number of activities, negative things, and that they come in and they eat. Now, of course, the question arises, every family has issues. Everybody has stress in their lives and things that are negative. But not everybody, fortunately, is the victim of a parasite. And we were rather pleased to see that what works best is called, we call it, Ben and myself, my son and I, call it the Peter Pan theory. Think happy thoughts. We used to go in, of course, with priests and clergy and holy water and all, or whatever the religion of the people happen to be. But we found out that what works best is simply strengthening yourself through unity. Now, I can't put a scientific finger on it, but it seems that these entities feed on whatever divides people, and the unity, we've come to put a capital U on that, is what cuts off their food supply and brings people together.
Starves them out, so to speak.
And even if we're bonkers, we've got it's good advice for any family to come together, to appreciate one another. To tell your loved ones that you love them now. Don't wait, because you never know what's going to happen 5 minutes from now. That sort of thing. Just keeping it positive. And people often get a kick out of the idea that I once got rid of the worst poltergeist I ever dealt with, 1979. It was worse than Bridgeport, by using a joke book.
And read the book to it, I'm assuming.
Well, not necessarily. What happened now? Because this is not a standard answer that I would present in a situation like this. But there were 6 of them. They had gotten to the point where they had pretty much gotten everything they were going to get, and they would go into a new phase if allowed to. But we thought that while they were at while we were at the advantage, we would take some action of that kind to bring in positive energy. And it was pretty much of an experiment. And it involved an apartment over a store owned by a widow and her daughter, and the daughter had been sent to live. And it was the closest they ever saw to Hollywood. There were gouges taken out of the plaster walls. The first time I walked in, there was a huge chair thrown at my head, the size of a Volkswagen. It's a big leather armchair. Jeez. And it was unbelievable. But we brought, and the joke book, somebody finally asked on our show, what was the joke book? And it was a little 1960 edition of Brother Juniper. I don't know if you've ever heard of those Brother Juniper cards. There's a little monk, and they're just really cute, funny one-liners. And this little monk gets into conversations and stuff. And we just had, there was another fellow who'd been in the seminary with me, and there was the woman and her daughter. We had a nice dinner, and we just yucked it up all evening. Things never seen or heard from again. So, I mean, I don't think...
What are these things? I mean, what's your best guess? What are these things?
We have actually narrowed it down to about 9 different species and we literally call them parasitical entities. There seem to be certain characteristics of these things that because we really studied these and come in close contact with them. And one thing that's really fascinating is that, this came up in the Bell Witch case, so-called, of 1817 to 1821 in Robertson County, Tennessee. And what happened was that these things, there were 4 of them in that case, at least from when I was given access to some primary documents because I was helping out on that movie, The American Haunting, with Sissy Spacek and Donald Sutherland some years ago. And the apparent situation was that there was sexual abuse going on of John Bell, the father, against the daughter, okay? And that in itself seems to have rung the dinner bell. But these things became so powerful, and this is a classic example, that they were able to move about the county on their own strength and not have to stay in this one house or bother these people, because the attention that they brought, people would come to the Bell house just to hear them sing. There would be a voice, they couldn't see it, but the voice was a beautiful voice. It would tell hilarious jokes. I don't know if it was Brother Juniper, but they were, telling these jokes. It could repeat word for word every sermon in every church in Robertson County that had been preached the previous Sunday. And people would ask, what are you? Where did you come from? And they would display the most fascinating tendency that I found in these things is that the longer they spend in our world or attached to a human host, the more they tend to forget their own origins. Even the upper echelon ones would seem to have the most brains, so to speak. They would say that they had Native American connections and had been in the area for centuries. Now, who were the First Nations around there? They were the mound builders, the Adena culture, this sort of thing, all the way up through the center of the country. And supposedly they practiced human sacrifice. I mean, what could ring the dinner bell more for parasites than something as negative as human sacrifice? Or war, or government, very often in its common form. And they just, that's all they seemed that they could remember. I was working with a very famous artist in New York City. I can't tell you the name, but this person had for 25 years been suffering from the lower echelon. We have about 9 different species, as I say. These were the brats, one of the brats. They're 2-dimensional thinkers. They sometimes will act like children. And this would throw this person down the stairs and do all kinds of things. And it was afraid to separate from this person because it didn't know where to go or what it would do or what it would eat. There have been...
Oh, wow. It was almost a codependency at that point, is what you're saying.
Precisely. Well put. Exactly. It was a codependent relationship. Very often we have to wade in, and not very often, but often enough, we have to wade in and disentangle these kind of sick bonding relationships that will occur. I had a case in 1998 in Rhode Island here, where the woman thought that this was a lover from a former life. And we actually witnessed this. She would wake up at night and have hand marks around her neck because it would try to strangle her. She called it Frank. It was nothing of the kind. I could tell it was a parasite a mile away because, I had some experience with these things. And it knew that I knew. And when they know you have their, and this was one of the upper echelon too. We refer to them as the wise, not wise in any way that's good for us, but wise in their own ways. And we eventually broke this up, and the woman married a very, very capable Native American shaman. That was a very good move because he knew all about this kind of thing, and everything was great from then on, as far as we know. So these things, again, I think are they fit the bill of our folklore about demons, but since most people don't understand the ins and outs of the multiverse, if our theories are correct, then they wouldn't think of them as parasites, although that does kind of come up at times. But so that's we're dealing with the wise, the elders, or the next step down. There are farmers who kind of stay in the background and will literally farm a family for generations. I ran into that at one point in California, too. Pack hunters, rogues, passives.
My gosh, it's a whole society
of
these creatures that most of us are unaware of.
Joel, you know me too well already, because they seem to have leadership and a basic culture. Some of the upper species dominate the lower ones. We find this in different cases. Others work together as pack hunters. And it's really, they're part of nature. I always like to say that today's paranormal is tomorrow's science. So,
yeah, it's just science undiscovered.
Absolutely, yep.
Paul, how come I've never heard any of these theories, ever?
Well, I don't know. I know we're not the first to talk about these sorts of things. Jacques Vallée in the 1950s was talking about the multiverse concept.
Right.
I don't know if anybody. I think what we do that's kind of unique is to actually use it in practical applications.
Introducing Peacock, the new free streaming service from NBC Universal. It's hit movies, current shows, live sports, trending bits, and timeless hits. And that's why you can't not watch. Peacock. Watch for free, upgrade for more. Stream now at peacocktv.com. Law & Order SVU streaming now.
Are you a gig worker or self-employed? Womply has helped over 100,000 small businesses get a PPP stimulus loan and proudly serves more than 600,000 small businesses across America. Millions of self-employed workers may qualify for up to $41,000 in 100% forgivable loans. So apply today. The program ends soon, and funds are limited. Apply now at womply.com/apply and see if you qualify for a PPP loan. Womply.com/apply. That's WOMPLY.com/apply.
In these cases, and the results have been interesting because on our show, we often... we're a little rough on the ghost hunter types, okay? We advise people not to do it. You don't know what you're getting into. It's not butterfly hunting or stamp collecting. It's dangerous. And we'll often hear now, at least in the past 5 or 10 years, from people who say, well, I have a ghost hunting team, and we use your theories and your books, and we get amazing results. So be a little easier on us. I said, well, okay, well that's as may be, but it's still not a good idea to go looking for it. If it comes after you, that's another story. I mean, you have to deal with it. Yeah. So, but
don't go look for snakes unless you're ready to find them.
Well, precisely. You look for them, you'll find them.
Oh yeah.
I don't know about Minnesota in December, but.
So, what do you think, Paul, about things like dogmen that seem to only have one purpose, and that's to scare the living hell out of people?
Yeah, we've done a lot of, as a matter of fact, our 2017 book Ben and I wrote is about cryptids, and we put in our own experiences, and as well as the experiences of people who've appeared on our show, such as our very dear friend Linda Godfrey, whom I know is a friend of yours as well. Wonderful person with a similar press background to myself. And we put in a lot of the interviews we had done with her, and she said something very interesting. She said that when she interviews witnesses, she has encountered many examples of a witness meeting the eyes of the upright canine cryptid, dogman, whatever you want to call it, and getting the impression from it that, okay, I'm here and you're, and you know, I'm here and too bad for you, or you're not supposed to see me, or I know more than you do. That sort of basic impression is given. It's funny that I asked, did Linda herself ever have a personal experience? And Doug, you'd know about this because you were probably there. MonsterQuest, she said that they were working out in the Texas, the Big Thicket area, which is actually one of our flap area cases now. And she said that she turned around. Naturally, the lights were pointed in another direction, but she turned around, and there was the glimpse of a grayish, furry leg, upright, kind of walking into the brush. And if Linda says it, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, no, she downplays everything.
Yeah. But I think what we're dealing with is multiversal creatures, and we ourselves are multiversal creatures. But if we start to live that lifestyle, you're schizophrenic, and they fill your pockets full of antipsychotic drugs, and that's about how it goes. But I think that certainly the Bigfoot experience that I had, and where I had it, and where people all around in this flap area in Pennsylvania have had it, indicate a creature that comes and goes. In the case of Bigfoot or orangutan-like apes or creatures that have dropped out of trees and back, it happened to one of our group actually twice, and that sort of thing. So I think we're dealing with creatures that apparently come and go. The First Nations call them shapeshifters. And I think that might be one of the ways that they come and go. Certainly the cryptids of various kinds who appear in areas that are not wilderness areas. In the Pennsylvania case, it's open farming country, copses or a small forest of maybe 10 acres. And, where is a large primate, especially a breeding population of a large primate, you have to have at least 500. Where does that come from and go to? And why is the military so interested?
That would explain why our good friends are out there. They're all dedicated researchers, have yet to find one.
Yeah.
Actually get a specimen of one, a body. That would lend some credence to that.
So basically, Paul, so you're thinking that they're metaphysical, I guess, is the term. They're here sometimes, other times they're not. I mean, am I using the wrong term?
Well, I don't know, Doug. I think I would put it, and again, if these theories are correct, there might be other explanations we haven't thought of. I think that the coming and going I think that some species are able to use actually, we've had to invent an entirely new vocabulary just to talk about some of these concepts. We use the term overwash and intersect point and overlap, okay, which are subtly different. But these are overlaps and overwashes and stuff between parallel realities in a world family. Now, in a world family, you would have, it could be millions and billions of worlds where the laws of physics are similar or the same to our own. And again, this is good physics to some physicists, all right? Matter of fact, we had the likes of Fred Allen Wolf on our show telling us that he agreed with us. And, taken to its conclusion here, Amit Goswami pretty much not as enthusiastic as Dr. Wolf was. Nevertheless, I think we're on the right track here, barking up the right tree, to use a canine metaphor, I guess. So I think that we're dealing with some things that know how to come and go in the reality of the multiverse. For example, my own experience, Friday, September 16th, 2016, brilliant moonlit night. And now you think after, almost 50 years of doing this, I'd know things are never going to happen as you expect them to, Paul. But we'd seen strange lights in the sky, gotten some interesting photos. I had the cameras in my truck up in this field, and I was pointing it up, toward where we'd seen the lights. All of a sudden, something catches my eye to the right. And again, brilliant moonlit night. I'd been out there for hours, so it was like day. I remember the huge knees and legs, brown fur moving up and down, and a huge figure with the head bowed as if looking for something in the tall grass of the field. The next day, Shane Searway and I, if you haven't had Shane on your show, you should. He's one of our gang. We reenacted that, and we found a track that had not tracks, but a track through the grass. Something on two legs had walked through the grass. It started at one point where it shouldn't have, and it just ended. Probably at the point where my wife called. The closest I ever came to divorce. I'm just getting out of the truck to take some shots, and the phone rings. And gee, turn off the phone from now on, Paul. But and it was anyway. The theme from Lord of the Rings, my ringtone, was blasting out over the field, and the thing apparently disappeared. So while that was occurring, it was gone, and then all of a sudden I see these lights up in this tree, ordinary-looking lights, not anything like UFOs.
Yeah.
And the next night at a neighborhood meeting, we've had neighborhood meetings here, up to 35 people, almost all of whom have seen strange lights and Bigfoot. And I told this story, and a hand went up, and it was a woman named Melissa who lived on the other side of the field. She said, those lights, that was my son and me. We had come home from the store. We heard something big moving through that field. While I was seeing it, they went up, because they're used to this, and shined the lights. I said, why were you shining lights in the trees? They go, sometimes they're in the trees. So
wow.
So that was, but my point being, it came from somewhere and went somewhere, because that track stopped, started and stopped where it shouldn't have. It just started and stopped. And that's a common story in this field. The tracks in the snow, the tracks in the mud. Just you turn around and it's good. So I think that's more arrow in the quiver of the idea that we're dealing with a multiversal creature who knows how to come and go in order to eat.
So you think they're actually consciously doing this versus it just happens?
Well, I should point out that I haven't been doing this as long as some people. I mean, 50 years in the paranormal in general, but I'm just kind of getting to know Bigfoot over the last 5-6 years here. Mm-hmm. And I think that they consciously come and go. I think that I always rely on what the First Nations people say. How do they refer to Bigfoot? At least some of them, keepers of the game. All right.
Yeah.
There have been many instances where Bigfoot has been seen with herds of deer. I remember in the Kentucky Triangle, the Panther Rock Triangle that we're just starting to work on, witnesses have said that they have seen Bigfoot move late at night, moving peacefully through deer, a herd of deer. The deer have not seemed alarmed. Others have reported deer spooked to the point of total panic and running away from Bigfoot. And the only thing you can think of, or one of the few answers, is maybe in the case of the peaceful deer, they didn't see it. So again, these are
or possibly, and I have seen lions laying down 20 feet from zebras that are drinking out of a lake, for instance.
Yeah.
They know when it's in hunt mode and when it's not in hunt mode.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a possibility the ones that were reacting were to Bigfoot that was actively seeking prey where the other one was not?
Very possibly.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's just so weird because, look, I talk to witnesses constantly, and most of them have an encounter that does scare them. And so in the back of my mind, I've always wondered, is that their purpose? Or is that not their purpose? It's just because of their, the way they look. They're just scary, and we don't know anything about them.
Yeah, well, it's possible.
Are they trying to scare us?
Well, Doug, I don't know. I think that one of the things I've learned in all these years is that we don't just sit there like lumps and paranormal things, happen to us. I think we participate very actively in it. As a matter of fact, I tend to think that when a paranormal experience is going on, no matter what kind, we are partially in that world, and it is partially in ours. Mm-hmm. I think that's definitely the case. I think what we bring to it, we get out of it what we bring to it. Here's an example. On that night in 2016, when I was sitting in my truck there, I always go into these situations with a great reverence and I will ask permission to enter a field or the woods or whatever, and I treat it with great respect. Now, about 100 yards down on the road from where I had my experience, a little girl, about a year before this, and we didn't know about this yet, had encountered a very similar creature, broad daylight, and was absolutely terrified. Now, when I had my experience, I felt privileged. It was almost a sacred experience, very, very peaceful. But she was absolutely terrified to the point where, to this day, she won't talk to us. Now, I hope when she grows up, she will. I mean, she's come to a couple of neighborhood meetings, and all she's done is cried, because this is such a terrifying experience for her. And it didn't attack her or anything, as far as we know, but her parents said the story they got out of her was just she was just completely terrified in the presence of this creature. So I think a lot of it has to do with what we bring to the experience ourselves.
Well, that seems to be the common thread, though, is fear. I mean, whether someone runs into a dog man or a Bigfoot, a Mothman, fear is the common thread. And I've just wondered, I don't know the answers to anything. And that's why I'm so open-minded.
Well, none of us do.
Yeah, but I just wonder, is it, because you talk about the parasites, you wonder, is it possible that that's really their goal, is to feed on our fear, period?
Well, could a parasite appear as a Bigfoot? I don't see why not. One of the things that we deal with when it comes to UFOs, and we're kind of tight with Kathy Marden and a few of the other people who work with experiencers, and they'll often come to us with a case where, somebody's had an abduction experience. All of a sudden, they're having poltergeist activity in their house, things that would usually be considered "quote unquote" demonic. And how do you approach that? And I often wonder if the experience we have and the label we put on it, which is our label, it may completely miss the reality of what's going on. Really depends, again, on our limited paradigm and our narrow understanding of what these things are. So if we're standing in a field and we see a strange light in the sky and a big creature underneath it, aha, an alien. Or if we're sitting in our living room and this wispy figure goes by, aha, a ghost. I don't know, maybe neither of those are true. You just don't really know. So again, it's our narrow paradigm, and it's Ben and I are always saying it's the first day of school.
Mm-hmm. Just when you think you have the answers, the questions change.
It's a good put it, because that's the way I feel every day, and I've been doing this for, I don't even want to think, 35 years, and I just, God, every day I get up excited to learn something, but then I don't really learn anything.
Well, maybe I'm a self-satisfied idiot, but I think that we've learned a lot. I think that helps. Other people say, well, why do you even have to try to explain it? Well, I'm a journalist, for crying out loud. I mean, it's in my blood, and in the seminary, I asked all kinds of very, very vexing questions that really kind of annoyed my teachers, most of them anyway. For example, Christ is in the tomb 3 days. Well, after the crucifixion. But I mean, Friday evening to Sunday morning is not 3 days. It's like a day and a half. Stuff like that other people I didn't seem to be asking. I was just weird that way. So I do the same thing in the paranormal. We're very, very seldom invited to speak at paranormal conferences as such, with the Ghost Hunter group, because we're bad for business. We question all their ideas. The UFO people and the cryptid people like us much better, because I think that they're more open to these new ideas. So anyway, that's
well, the reason they're open, Paul, is because they've all experienced something at some point that kind of it didn't make sense.
Yeah, well, everybody has their experiences.
It kind of, to me anyway, and this is just me speaking about the differences between the paranormal community and the Bigfoot community, is the people in the cryptid communities, they want answers for what most of them have already encountered. They were scared, they want to confront it, but they also want to know why it's happening, what's driving the ship. How is it working? Instead of just collecting evidence and going, hey, isn't this great? Look at my evidence. they really want a deeper understanding of what frightened them on a very personal level.
Yeah, they do. And it's, I get that all the time. Like, why me?
Mm-hmm.
Very often. And it's just, and that especially is the attitude of many people who are in groups where some of the people see the Bigfoot or the UFO and others in the group who are standing right there don't see it. That to me is very interesting. We've run into cases where in neighborhoods where people were, together and some were seeing it. And the people who saw it, and I'm thinking of a case in Connecticut from the 90s, that they were being taught. They felt as though it was instructional for them. And they didn't know what that meant. But they also felt it was specifically for them. So again, the personal nature of many of these experiences is kind of begs the question, what else could be behind this besides just, multiversal, intersect points? What is the intention? As Doug has asked, so we're still going to be working on that.
And there's so many creatures or cryptids. I mean, there's just so many witnesses and so many just legitimate sightings from trained observers. I mean, police officers, military personnel. The list could go on, and that's why Mothman, even to this day, makes me scratch my head. Where was it from, and what was its purpose?
Yeah,
was it really a harbinger of doom, or was it something bigger? What's your thoughts on Mothman, a creature like that one?
Well, one thing that interests me is we've talked to witnesses, very few, actually only two, who had very positive experiences when encountering Mothman, in the West Virginia scenario. One of them, Kevin Colvin, you probably know him, says that when he and his family encountered Mothman in the car when he was a kid, all of a sudden, the next day, he was like this brilliant artist that did well in math and music and all. He was like a Renaissance man, whereas he'd been just a kind of an average kid. And he credits Mothman for that. And another person told us something similar. But again, this is an area where, which John Keel, another journalist, far better than I am, would say is a window area. But much like the flap area, we would say, only that I don't think it goes as far as the flap area concept. UFOs, all kinds of strange things going on. In our research in that area, we've talked to people who said they heard things landing on their roof at that. They were kids at the time, and footsteps on the roof. Red eyes looking through the windows or out from under their furniture. Other people had experience with the Men in Black sort of thing. Things that John Keel describes in the Mothman prophecies that people told us that they actually experienced. So I think that the purpose of Mothman, again, an area where multiple intersect points are taking place. And here's the key concept in quantum mechanics for those who believe it this way, that all possible outcomes are out there in concrete reality at some point in the multiverse. Okay, all possible outcomes are there. So there would be creatures like that at some point. If you can conceive of it, it's out there. And dovetailing with that is Einstein's that essentially came out of the special theory of relativity. He wrote about in 1952 that all time and space really is a function. Time and space are the same and are all simultaneous. Time, past to future, is our experience of it, but that's not the objective reality. That does wonders for concepts like reincarnation if there's no past. But parallel lives rather than past lives. And I always make it a point to talk to regression therapists, people who will put you in a hypnotic state back to your past lives. And I'll say, do you ever encounter subjects who will describe a world you don't recognize or a date you don't recognize? And almost always they'll say, funny you should ask that. Just last week somebody said it was some date in the 28th century or some combination of letters and numbers as a date they didn't even recognize. So again, if this is legitimate, and there was some question about hypnosis, there was when I first came into the field here in the 70s, then that's more arrows in the quiver of the idea of the multiverse and parallel lives and different versions of ourselves in this.
Hold on, different versions of ourselves. Does that mean, and I don't mean to interrupt you because I just had a lightning rod thought. Good. Does that mean the individual that I encountered that I did not know had passed away might not have been a ghost? It might have been him living in just another universe. The version of him that didn't die.
Precisely. Absolutely. Because as I say, why do we encounter ghosts who are afraid of us? Because they think we're ghosts haunting them. Why do people see ghosts of themselves? We get a lot of, they can't all be nuts. People who write to our show, we had one guy in Ontario, Canada, wake up and say there was a house in a lot next to his that had been woods the day before. And everybody says, what are you talking about? The house has been there for 20 years. And again, maybe these people are, they can't all be making it up. The volume of email we receive on these things that seem to be time slips or slips in the conscious reality, Mandela effect, if you will, this sort of thing. They people can't all be making this up. I had experiences like that myself. Again, to illustrate the multiverse idea, we live in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, which is northern Rhode Island, not too far from Boston, and it's a small sort of declining mill town, but there are a lot of wooded areas. We live on Woonsocket Hill, which is notoriously haunted, and Ben himself had a Bigfoot experience here. And when we first moved here in 1996, I took the kids. Ben was little at the time. I took the kids out, his two cousins and the neighborhood dog. There actually was a neighborhood dog. Everybody kind of owned. And we went up through the woods, and we encountered a field of the most beautiful yellow flowers. It was at least an acre, probably larger, with a path down through it. And we took the path. I have never, ever been able to find that field again. And this is almost 25 years now. Never been able to find it. Walk in the woods all the time. And it's about 30 acres. So, I'm not going to miss it. So what was that? And I think everyone has their multiverse experiences. You come in, you put your keys down on the counter, you turn around and they're gone, or they're at the other end of the counter. You don't think it's one of those things. You forget about it by the end of the day. But it's when something comes in and starts playing frisbee with your grandmother's fine china. That's when you notice it and you don't forget it.
Well, why do some of us experience that more? I've had probably 10 experiences like that are, in many cases, I'm with somebody. I was with my daughter. We were at a family reunion and we're waiting to get on the elevator, Paul. Here comes this family, walks out of the elevator, and they're very distinct looking. We get in the elevator, we go down to the bottom of the elevator, and here comes the family towards us. And my daughter looked at me and she said, glitch.
Yeah, your daughter's right. Glitch. The multiverse seems to be like Swiss cheese. I've had people see me in several different places at the same time because I wasn't. If you look at the history of the saints, particularly in the Western Church, you've got a lot of examples of bilocation and things that would normally be considered paranormal. Matter of fact, in our 2016 book, we have a whole history on the paranormal lives of the saints. A whole chapter on that with a lot of strange things going on, bilocation, levitation, things of that kind, that in other cultures are known, particularly among Buddhists, and it's a human condition. It's not necessarily attached to any particular religion or belief system.
So if that's at times like what Doug witnessed with that family, is it location specific? Like there's different areas where the veil is thinner, where you're more apt to have a time slip or witness something of high strangeness? Or is it very randomized, where it could appear or disappear anywhere?
Well, perhaps all of the above. These flap areas, if you look at their history, seem to be areas where even, you go back to the First Nations and they'll talk about strange things happening, bizarre creatures, shapeshifters, ghosts, strange lights in the sky that have gone back centuries or as long as there's been human habitation in the area. Others seem to be pass-throughs or just new kinds of places where these occur. One example that might be understandable for just, I guess, anyone who's particularly been there are the stone circles in, say, England. Now, some of them are charged, if you want to say. Others are dead. All right. I stood in the Score Hill Stone Circle in Devonshire in 1989, and it was kind of a crummy, little bit rainy day in March, like you'd have out in the moors. And I looked up, and coming out from behind one of the tors, as they called, rocks, was a line of horses, people on horses, and some people walking on foot. And it was probably less than a quarter mile away. I had binoculars, but what was that about? It could have been just a bunch of people out on the moor on a Wednesday on March in the rain, but I kind of doubt that. Yeah. That is a charged circle. Paul Devereux has done a lot of research on this with the Dragon Project. Others are just dead. So these intersect points, if that's what they are, do tend to move. Ben and I have actually been able to move them. This house at the center of the Connecticut Triangle, the Litchfield, Torrington area, where there are things that have happened in cryptids that don't even have names yet. That's been an area where maybe the classical term would be portals or intersect points. We're in the house 64 years and 6 generations in this house. In 1793, this family's been experiencing weird stuff. And Ben and I managed to move, or especially him, because he's very good at this, to move the portals elsewhere, but they came back. It could be because of the Bouget anomaly. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but
that's a new one on me, Paul. What is the Bouget anomaly?
Bouget anomaly. It's named after a French scientist who pretty much discovered it, and it's a recognized anomaly. It's a gravitational anomaly recognized by scientists. As a matter of fact, geologists will use it to try and find oil and gas deposits. And what it does, nobody really understands it, but if you were to walk down into a river valley, say, you'd kind of be going closer to the center of the Earth, albeit in a minuscule way, you would expect gravity to be a little bit heavier, right? To be a little stronger. That's not the case where the Bouget anomaly exists. Gravity gets lighter as you get closer to, as you get farther down the hill or closer to the center of the Earth.
Really?
And again, yeah, it's because they assume that some kind of light elements in the soil will do that, but it just, nobody's really understood it. But again, it's used for a lot of practical applications in the energy industry. Now, we just, on a hunch, kind of did a correlation. And every single flap area that we have investigated has strong examples of the Bouget anomaly. The strongest Bouget anomaly in Connecticut is right around the area of this house in the center of the Litchfield, Goshen, Torrington Triangle, which we've been working on for 15 years. The second strongest was at the point where that village is, the abandoned village that I started working on in 1970, where all these bizarre things started to happen. And we heard the sounds of life in this previous village, farm implements, cows, dogs. And the question is, well, why would that be? Well, what did Einstein say? Gravity can bend space and time, even in small amounts. So
it was almost recording the past, is what you're saying. Or do you think they were still living? I mean,
whatever you're funny, Peacock's got it exclusively. Bears beats The Office on Peacock. Stream every moment from Dunder Mifflin and explore bonus extras and exclusives. Plus, if you're looking for more classic hits, you can stream every episode of Parks and Recreation, 2.5 Men, and every season of SNL. In the mood for something brand new? Check out Peacock's original comedies, The Amber Ruffin Show, and Saved by the Bell. Whether you're craving a new binge or familiar fave, you can find tons of comedy hits on Peacock. Get started for free at peacocktv.com.
Are you a gig worker or self-employed? Womply has helped over 100,000 small businesses get a PPP loan. You may qualify for up to $41,000 in 100% forgivable loans. The program ends soon and funds are limited. Apply now at womply.com/apply. That's WOMPLY.com/apply.
Explain a little bit. I mean, how are you hearing that happening with that anomaly?
Okay, well, I was one of the early advocates of the residual haunting theory. That somehow the environment records you say, the past on the environment. But I mean, how? I mean, the trees are all different. The soil's all different. You'd need tremendous amounts of iron oxide in the rocks just for an audio, the start of an audio, and let alone video. But, we stood there and we heard an ox cart driver by. This is in this place in Connecticut. And the guy's yelling, yeah, and the crack of a whip, and we could hear the hoofbeats and the wooden wheels. And 7 of us witnessed this. It was in 1971. And I mean, cripes, I just don't think that the recording thing is good enough because I have interacted with what was generally believed to be residual hauntings and changed them. All right. Now, what was really strange too is that I've tried to actually run toward those sounds in cases like this, and all of a sudden they're just over there. You run over there and it's just over here, because I think it has to do with Einstein's idea that space and time are curved. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think we're witnessing the actual people in the actual environment in what to us would be the past, but a simultaneous parallel world. We only experience it past or future, but as we were saying before, it's all simultaneous. Einstein himself
Gotcha.
wrote to, it's a hard concept. Einstein himself wrote to the family of a childhood friend who had died and said, I can't remember the exact quote, but, we physicists have an idea of time that means his death makes no difference at all in his life. And I think I've seen that. Mm-hmm. It's rather a mind-boggling concept, and I think it's rather glorious. I think death doesn't mean a thing, not even for the body, which is why you probably saw the fellow before, after he died in our world and was still carrying on normal life in one in which you were sharing.
Did it matter that the observer knows that it's an anomaly, or does this happen? I mean, what part do we play as the observer?
Well, we're there, and we're partially.
That's really world. All it is. Your knowledge of it being like that individual being dead or alive really has nothing to do. You just have to physically be there.
No. I think everything has a role to play. I think your awareness will help you. I think you're not necessarily more likely to have the experience, but you're more likely to be aware that you're having the experience.
Gotcha.
How many times you walk down the street, and how do you know the car passing, or the bus that almost hit you, or the person who kind of nodded to you? How do you know that person's actually there?
Yeah,
because we got. I had an old friend in Yorkshire, England, who sent me a picture of his street near where he lived. And there was a woman walking by with no legs. I mean, you couldn't see her from the waist down. I've run into that more than once. I myself saw a figure like that in Devon, England, Wistman's Wood in 1989. So, I mean, again, I think we're dealing with simultaneities, synchronicities that are not really synchronicities, and a sort of shared reality that is completely unified and universal, but that we don't get just yet.
What about the radio theory, where some people, their radio is tuned in, to the certain frequency, and they walk around with that frequency, and they get to see more weird stuff. And other people, God, I'm sure you've met people, Paul, that are 70, 80 years old, and they've never seen one thing weird, nothing out of place.
Well, I think
others,
I think you're right there, Doug. I think that there are some people who are, you might be better at playing the piano than I am, or cooking. God forbid I cook anything you've never lived to tell about. But some people are just better at some things than others. There is a talent. I think it has to do with a lot of awareness, but also I think each of us has a talent. And when it comes to perceiving the paranormal, if I may use the term psychic powers, I think that's part of all of us. Otherwise, our species never would have survived. It's a survival instinct. How did, our gazillion great grandfather know, that the saber-toothed cat was kind of eyeing him for lunch there from the rock above his head, if he didn't have strange feelings and turn around and see it? Animals all do that. I have a friend who's done a study on horses and how they know you're 100 feet away or 100 yards, and they still know you're coming. That sort of thing. So I think it's a survival instinct.
I've got a personal question. Okay, every time I've had a paranormal experience, I am super happy. Like, not after the experience, but before. I'm in a good mood. I'm doing something I love. I'm up north. I'm building something. I'm just really content. In fact, I can remember my first paranormal experience. I was just this, young boy, and I was building a model, a car model, but I was really excited, to build it. In a good mood, I had to go to the bathroom. I knock on the door, and I hear a voice. Yeah, I'll be out in a minute. And the door opens, and there's nobody in there. It sounded like my father.
Yeah.
But I can think back, and I cannot think of one paranormal experience I've ever had where I was in a bad mood. I was in a super good mood. So do you have any explanation for that?
Yeah, and it goes back to the joke book, getting rid of the poltergeist, maybe. And I'm spitballing here, but I think positive people do tend to have more experiences. Why? Because positive energy, humor, good feeling, a sense of unity brings us together. Maybe with other versions of ourselves. We always say, try to be positive in your life because it affects your we call the super life, one of our terms, the versions of yourself living in the world family and beyond. And I think you are more aware because you are a positive person. This is my first time I've ever really met you, except on Facebook.
Well, yeah, I'm a positive person. I can't wait to get up in the morning. I don't even want to go to bed.
Yeah,
I love doing stuff. And,
it's great.
And yet I have these experiences when you least expect them. And you're in this great, and sometimes you'll have the most horrific things that scare the living tar out of you. But right before you had them, you were in this like amazing, oh my God, life couldn't get any better mood.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I would have a lot more questions for you about, your living environment, the people you're with, and this sort of thing that might be relevant. But it just seems that at the best end of the spectrum, you're a positive person and you're aware of your multiverse existence. All right. At the other end, even if you're encountering something that's negative, your positive nature will defend you from it.
Yeah.
Peter Pan thing.
I'm still here. Here.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. So I think these things I think are simpler than we might think.
I don't know.
The tough thing is grasping the idea that there's more than one version of you, and then more than one version of the world. And people often come after me for not. They hear I've been in the seminary, and they come after me for not embracing their religious beliefs. And I said, well, I learned a lot in the seminary, but I don't necessarily believe it, at least not in the way they taught it. So people would say, well, how can you talk about this when it comes to theology? Well, what is the theology of the creation? The idea is that God could not restrain he, she, or to them, infinite love, and it just exploded in the creation. I said, well, so if love is infinite, divine love is infinite, wouldn't the creation be infinite too? All possibilities, all outcomes, all versions of people, which in the end could amount to a perfect creation, a great, elegant harmony of everything. Just because we can't see it because we're not there yet in our evolution doesn't mean that God is bad or the creation is bad or whatever. That's just an idea. Probably God is learning along with the rest of us, which is not good theology.
My dad used to tell me, Paul, he used to say, the universe won't rest until every combination of every last thing has happened to everything.
I think that's very astute and absolutely true.
I went, okay.
I'd like to have known your father.
Oh, he was amazing. I mean, he
reminds me of my father.
He was a more mellow version of you, Paul.
Oh, really? All right.
Joel, I mean, let's talk behind Paul's back right now.
Yeah.
He's like, oh my God, Paul's brain is going a mile a minute. And I've heard more new theories and more logic out of you than I've heard. I mean, you're really you think very logically, but very quickly. And you're certainly way above anything my brain can handle.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you should. I majored in philosophy. I don't know if that's got anything to do with how guilty I am on that. But it's a. I hope we're right. I like to think that we're right and that we can help people with the ideas, but
if we have my question is, if we have the multiverse, right? You have all these universes coexisting at the same time. They intermingle with each other at times. We've talked about that. But what's the purpose? I mean, do they sustain each other?
Joel, is it a glitch or is it on purpose that they intermingle? Like my daughter said glitch, but maybe that's not a glitch.
I think there's more purpose there. I think
I do too.
They are feeding upon each other to some extent. The multiverse. I think one cannot exist without the other.
Yeah, there was a great theologian and scientist at the same time, Teilhard de Chardin, Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, French, obviously. And he had a concept of what we're talking about. But he described the omega point, that all creation, all, in our terms, all these universes are converging into a great unity. And he brought sort of a cosmic Christ into this, which is fine. That's fine. But in the end, all these things would come together, and all these worlds would be one. And again, he didn't necessarily have the multiverse concept, but it's the same idea. So I think that one of the reasons we may be seeing so much paranormal activity is one aspect could be social media. Maybe everybody knows everything, whether it's correct or not, and it's all going out over social media. But on the other hand, I've never been so busy. There are so many cases, so many multiversal events that I would call multiversal events going on, that maybe these things are all coming together. If you look right now at the astronomical situation, oddly enough, we have the whole galactic neighborhood is kind of almost in a flat plane, which happens every 600, I believe it's about every 600 million years. So hopefully it doesn't mean a mass extinction. It might mean a mass awareness of some kind of, coming together of the multiverse in some way.
An alignment to the multiverse.
So I think there is definitely a purpose to it.
Because I've noticed,
we might help determine that.
I've noticed a big uptick in the 2000s even. Yeah. In sightings of cryptids, in sightings of ghosts, if you will. Yeah. Just it seems to be more than even in the 90s. And the 90s is a hotbed of activity, and the 2000s, for whatever reason, whether it's the stars are aligning right, whether there's the multiverses are coming together, I don't know what have you, but there sure seems to be a lot more frequency, and I almost dare say better sightings than there was then.
Yeah. But I think that's true. But everybody's got phone cameras, and people are talking about this subject matter. There are more people than there used to be in places. Could it be that may be a factor.
Could it be the mass intention that we're putting into it, Paul?
I think definitely.
We're all wanting to see it.
Yeah, I think so. Again, we bring to it what we get out of it. And we participate in it. As I say, we don't just sit there and these things happen to us. We are active participants. I mean, the whole Heisenberg uncertainty principle in physics proves that. You observe something, you change it, and that's good physics. So I think it's wildly exciting. I can't wait to see what happens tomorrow. Maybe not necessarily in politics, but I mean that's really a small part of our lives when you think of the greater picture. Yeah. And I think it's a really exciting time.
So basically acknowledging all these weird events and people discussing them, because it's so easy now online, You think that is causing this kind of, the quickening of these paranormal events?
Yeah, I think so too. And I'll go one step further there, Doug. And I think that the whole phenomenon of the internet and things like Slender Man, which essentially, as far as I've ever been able to find out, started on the internet, and people would talk about this. And then people started to have independent experiences of this when they weren't on computers and when they were in their bedrooms at night. And I think that whether you're going to talk about thought forms or tulpas or whatever, I think people concentrating on something will, in some cases, maybe attract parasites who will mimic this or just create thought forms.
Well, like the Philip experiment.
Yeah. exactly.
You know, give it enough energy. You fill that void with enough energy, something's going to come out of it.
Yeah. Ontario, Canada was in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And geez, they a group of I can't remember if it was at Sudbury University or where, but they decided they're going to concentrate. It was psychology class on a figure that they would make up, and the Philip was the guy. So they figured this 17th century guy who was in England.
Part of the aristocracy,
yeah. And they actually would use Ouija boards, and they would get results, which of course is not a good idea in my opinion. You don't know what's coming through. And they would, I believe they actually got a photograph or two, if I'm thinking of the right case. And there was some real reciprocity there, and an example of how you bring something in, you're not quite sure what you're going to get out of it, in a case like that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
What's
it's amazing.
What's your take on, when I say orbs, I'm not talking about like dust orbs, and I'm talking about lights in the sky that are basketball size. It seemed to be like the most common sighting that people see. That's paranormal, supernatural, whatever. What's your take on those? Because there's so many colors and sparking ones, and pink ones, and red ones, and what are they?
Well, orbs are a good example of, you think you have it figured out, and then they do something else that you don't expect. I've seen them with the naked eye. I've had them follow me, change colors, and act in a very intelligent manner. But because so does ball lightning at times. So orbs, I mean, when everybody comes running to me with orb photographs. Now, the thing that's really strange or interesting is back in the 70s, when our high-tech equipment consisted of a Kodak Instamatic camera, or cameras with film at least, you would have orbs that would just, there'd be explosions of light here, but you didn't have orbs in the sense that you have them today on digital media. Now, digital media will interpret things that is coming through the lens, for example. So you get, dust, or if you're taking a flash photograph in the cemetery at night, you get bugs flying by and they look like orbs, especially if you have kind of the polished gravestones such as you'd have today. So these are all things you have to consider. But I've encountered plenty that do not seem to be any kind of misinterpretation. They're right there. And there have been some
with your eyes.
Okay, well, with the eyes, yeah. I think they are life forms that feed around the boundaries of worlds. They feed around intersect points. And I think, again, all these things I think are part of nature, just not discovered yet. But I think orbs are living creatures, in the most common forms that you'd see with your naked eye, or even some that you can photograph. So.
Plankton-type creature or a really intelligent creature? What do you think?
Well, a lot of them do seem to be intelligent, and of course, a squirrel is too. You run toward it, it's going to run away, right? I've had orbs follow me, this sort of thing, almost like a dog would. So I don't think that they're sort of plasma-based Einsteins in any great degree, but the ones I've encountered do seem to be just feeding. Again, around the boundary, and that's where you seem to get the most photographs. And when there are photographs, we've had taken pictures in some of these flat areas, and it's just full of orbs. And I know that, and I was there, I took the picture. I know they're not snowflakes. And I did it when I was in the Coast Guard. I was doing some intelligence photography in the wake of the Grenada invasion thing. So, I got a nodding acquaintance with,
Sure. And
I think they're living creatures.
Yeah, I mean, well, for the longest time in the paranormal community, orbs or ghosts, I've never bought that. I really didn't. I always thought there's more to it, and because they seem to be really feeding, like you'd said, on energy. I mean, there does seem to be some consciousness because they have a flight pattern. You can see them moving around like they are doing their thing, that there is some thought process there, but on a very lower level, just very primeval almost, where it's, I'm after food and that's about it.
Well, they seem to play with each other too, and almost like some birds would or anything else. I think they're life forms. Now, what are they feeding on? Again, even Carl Sagan and some other exobiologists or astrobiologists, as they call them today, have speculated very learnedly about the existence of non-carbon-based life forms, plasma-based life forms. You know, in the 70s, the the volcanic vents at the bottoms of the oceans were detected, and until then, biologists it was a religious tenet that all life on Earth was based on the sun, and here they find an entirely alien community of life on our own planet, only at the bottom of the ocean where there is no sunlight, feeding on sulfur dioxide and things like that would be poisonous to us. So, I mean, life is everywhere, every when, and in all kinds of different forms. And I often will chuckle when, we go to Mars, we send these probes, and we're looking for, life as we know it. What about life as we don't know it? Maybe most life is life as we don't know it.
Yeah, really. Yeah, it could be. Very weird.
That is...
So I've just seen so many of these orbs that are. So we were driving down the street and we see these two pink balls up in the sky, and they're bright pink, Paul. Yeah. I've never seen a pink ball in the sky, and there's two of them, and they're about maybe 4 feet away from each other. Another car pulls over. They're watching them. They come right to our car, and then one zips off to the, up in the sky, and the other one blinks out. I mean, it's kind of like, what are they doing? What are they? What do the colors mean? And, those are the types of things that, once again, you're just going to the grocery store. You don't want to see that.
Mm-hmm. Well, that happened right here in the main street of Woonsocket, Rhode Island, during a couple of years ago now, during the rush hour, such as it is here. And people were getting out of their cars. These orbs were sort of whipping up and down just over the heads of the people and the roofs of the cars. And, hundreds of people saw, well, maybe not 100, but 30 or 40 people saw this. And it was noticed in the local media. So, but again, I think we're dealing with intelligent creatures, just part of nature, something that we're not familiar with yet. I mean, as I say, in these flap areas, particularly in Connecticut, they have, boxy creatures, bouncing by the windows outside on these weird legs. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up. I mean, there aren't even names for these things. So everything is out there. And again, we think it's because of this principle of all outcomes and all possibilities existing in the multiverse and the whole thing interacting.
Sure. One of the high strangest areas I've been looking into a lot lately, trying to figure it out, and been planning a trip, is the Bridgewater Triangle.
It's right near me.
What do you think about that bridge? I mean, we've done multiple shows on it, and it's right by you, and I'm sure you've heard of it and maybe even looked into it yourself.
Oh, it's one of our cases, yeah.
What's the deal with that particular area? I mean, it's got so many cryptid sightings, and one of the oddest ones is the puck wedgie. It is brought up time and time again when I talk to people that have had encounters there. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, first of all, I'll have to send you pictures of what appeared to be little people that we got there in 2010. Ben and I were on one of our little trips out there. It's only about 25 miles from here, if that. And we had a report of a man, and we reported in our cryptid book we have a chapter about puckwudgies, where the man was walking his dog. The dog was named Bingo, and they both encountered a little man right up the road from where we got these photos. And it was trying to get him to come into the woods. And the guy said, he'd heard stories like this, but the dog saw it too. And that's what made him, concerned about this. And of course, they backed off. He never went back there again. But this does seem to be a flap area. We have encountered people who've seen, ghosts, Bigfoot. There's a lot of negative activity going on in there. And at one point, Ben, and he doesn't like me talking about this sometimes, he was mentored by a shaman of Aztec, pure blood Aztec descent. And he doesn't call himself a shaman himself, Ben doesn't, but he has these experiences. He can talk to trees, for example. And he has conversed with a number of trees in the Bridgewater Triangle. And he said the whole area is sick. There could have been... He suspects, and Ben is a very feet on the ground guy, so I was surprised to hear him say this, a possible UFO crash in the distant past which sort of contained energy that kind of infected the area. And just after he had that experience and told me about it, we were commenting, we have not yet met the military in this flap area. We always run into the military. Yeah. And sure enough, we go around a corner in the woods on this dirt road, and there's a whole line of unmarked utility trucks with these military types in sunglasses kind of watching us go by. There were no utilities, no utility poles, just this line of trucks. Now, I don't know what it was. Might have been something else. But we always run into the military, and the Bridgewater Triangle apparently is no exception. And the question of why the military is involved is another issue. But in the Bridgewater Triangle, it's very active, well known to the First Nations. They can tell you stuff. The Wampanoag people will come, and they have rights to a lot of the land there in the Hockomock management area, and they have a meeting house. They'll meet once a year, and then they skedaddle. They don't like to be there. Pukwudgies being part of the they just I mean, they haven't built anything else. I mean, they just have that meeting house, and that's it. There are all kinds of ghost stories. There's a phantom truck, and you name it.
Because I was told by other researchers that it's Prince Philip's War is why it's so active. King's Philip, sorry. Kings. Yeah. I downgraded him to a prince there for a minute. Sorry about that.
Well, he was neither, but that's all right.
But things, curses, things like that. But it's such a crypt. I mean, it's a cryptid hotspot. I mean, what's interesting to me is the sheer amount of diversity in cryptids in the area. Not just Bigfoot, not just Dogman, but you have the whole platter in that area. It seems.
But again, it's I think multiple intersect points, and since day one, that's our interpretation. And we're over there quite a bit. I was over there just before COVID hit with a film crew from Alexander Petikoff and Petikoff Media. I don't know if you know that, but it's part of the new Legend series they're working on. And we, in the process, discovered a stone chamber I never knew was there. I think it was probably built by a farmer, but nevertheless, there are all sorts of interesting things to see and do over there.
There is. There definitely is. I hope to get out there. Good friend of mine, Chris Balzano, is one of them.
Oh, Chris, yeah.
Yep.
Let me know when you come out this way. We'll get together, even if it's at a distance, with masks on.
Heck yeah. I'd definitely take you up on that. Man, we can't let you on here without you talking about your own radio show you guys are doing. A little show called, Beyond the Paranormal. So you might want to talk Behind the Paranormal. Oh my God, I just thought of that. Behind the Paranormal. Tell us about it. Where can we tune in?
Yeah, well, we're going into our 13th year on the air, and it's if you're in Boston, Providence area, it's 1240 AM and 99.5 FM. It's also carried streams live on the TalkStream Paranormal Radio app and TuneIn.com. And then if you go to our website, behindtheparanormal.com, there's all sorts of info and all the recorded shows. And the recorded shows are all, a lot of them, they're all out there. They're over 900 hours worth. So
that's a lot of broadcast time.
A lot of hot air.
Thanks, Paul. Geez, now I got that to do.
Well, thank you, fellas. It's been a real pleasure.
No, pleasure's all ours, Paul. Very, very interesting. Paulino, everybody. Yeah, we'll definitely have to get together, talk some more. Paulino, check it out. Behind the Paranormal. It's going to be a lot of fun. You're not going to regret that at all. A lot of things to talk about. A lot of new theories brought to the table. Again, thank you. And we're signing off. This for myself and Mr. Doug Hajicek. You guys take care of each other, love each other, and have a wonderful new year. And be safe.
10, 9, 8. Ignition sequence has started. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Streaming only on Peacock.
John Wayne Gacy is suspected of having killed as many as 32.
Straight from the killer's mouth.
They want you to believe that I alone committed these murders.
The new gripping 6-part documentary series that investigates the crimes that shocked the nation.
The thing everybody thought they knew wasn't the whole story.
John Wayne Gacy, Devil in Disguise. All episodes streaming now. Devil in Disguise. Only on Peacock.
Are you a gig worker or self-employed? Womply has helped over 100,000 small businesses get a PPP stimulus loan and proudly serves more than 600,000 small businesses across America. Millions of self-employed workers may qualify for up to $41,000 in 100% forgivable loans. So apply today. The program ends soon, and funds are limited. Apply now at womply.com/apply and see if you qualify for a PPP loan. Womply.com/apply. That's WOMPLY.com/apply.